Hey, it's episode 95 of the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. And before I introduce my guest, I would love to invite you to go download the PDF for fire departments that includes the needs assessment for your health and wellness program. I'll put the link in the show notes for you. It's a free PDF and it can be really helpful for identifying kind of where to start with your program. Speaking of program, this is part 2. This is episode number 95, part 2 of my mini series on Fairfax County. And today I sat down with Jake Patten. I just remembered today because he reminded me his name's actually John. So John Patten is the strength and conditioning coach for Fairfax County. He's been there for 7 years. He has previous experience at the collegiate level. And Jake and I just had a wonderful conversation about how he interfaces with not only their recruits, but their incumbents and with their peer trainers. So give it a listen and please follow the podcast on whatever platform you prefer. Have a great day. Thank you for joining me on the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, AZ. I find the research and resources and then provide the fire service with the so what, now what, to ensure the health and well-being of every member of our profession. Together, let's thrive. Hey, podcast listeners, it's AZ, and I am here with part number 2 of the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue series. And I'm here today with Jake Patten. Jake, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Oh my gosh. I was telling Brian that I did not know if I could handle Jake's level of energy. Like Jake is like a puppy. And so
yeah, that's the best way to put it.
You know, I love puppies, but on a podcast, I don't know if I can hang. So Jake, I hate reading bios and saying, tell me about yourself. So I'm going to ask you 3 get to know you questions. Are you ready?
I am.
And you mentioned that you're in your counterpart in the PD's office. So pretty sure there's an interrogation spotlight somewhere. Turn it on, please.
Yeah, that and another camera hidden somewhere watching us right now.
He's definitely watching you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with an easy one. I'm lobbing a softball. Who is Jake Patten?
Well, technically, my name is John Patten. So,
I forgot about that.
I know, right? So Jake is a nickname for my dad. So anyways, I won't go into all that. But let's see. I was raised in a militaristic football family. My father played in the NFL. So from day one, growing up in that locker room, I loved sports. I loved football. And then basically as I went through my childhood as an athlete into the college ranks as an athlete, I fell in love with the weight room. And it honestly got me playing time as a football player at the Division I level. Honestly, it was the only reason why. I mean, I knew football, but strength and conditioning really got me my playing time. So I fell in love with coaching pretty much from the age of 18 to about 23, and then picked up, where I could in getting my certifications. And then from there, the sky was the limit in terms of being a coach and helping out, athletes and even non-athletes at the time when I was first starting, just giving them the experience, the education that I learned myself, and then everything along the way. And then now I get to do it. Well, for the last 7 years, I'm doing it with all my tactical athletes. So I have a pretty passionate and charismatic personality. I'm very high-strung, high-energized person to a fault. Had to get some therapy on that for sure, because I had to know how to turn that switch off and on at times. But I have a great wife, an awesome daughter, a good life, and I love my firefighters and police officers that I work with. I love that. And, you just reiterated the whole puppy thing, so well. Everyone now can picture you. I kind of wish we did video, but also video for me is too big of a barrier to entry, but I wish you could see sure. Jake bounces around. It's hilarious. Oh yeah. Throw a ball out in front of me and scratch my back, and I'm the best dog you'll ever have.
Loyal to a fault.
Yep.
Okay. Jake, what sets your soul on fire?
Oh man. I think what sets my soul on fire has kind of a 2-part answer to it. One, it's pretty much anybody else that is as passionate as I am in terms of trying to better their human presence, whether it's physical, mentally, job performance, whatever it is. If somebody brings their passion and their ability to be humble and learn, I'm able to then, again, educate them from what I know. But then at the same time, I get to learn from them, especially being a civilian. in this line of work. I can't tell you, there hasn't been a day that's gone by every day that I've come into work, and even when I'm at home, just reading and talking to people. But I've learned so much just about being alive from some of my fire and police personnel. That doesn't even necessarily pertain to the job, just life experiences, how you talk to people, how you manage, how you lead. So I think the 1A to that question is, you bring fire to me, I'm going to give fire back. And then hopefully we can share and create that big ass bonfire, and we can learn from each other. I think the part B answer to that is love. I love love. I love happiness. I love, and I say that in terms of just watching people smile. I love how humans can be, so positive and happy towards each other at times. Obviously, we've all seen the negative sides and all that, but it's still pretty cool to see the human element that still exists, where people are kind to each other and they look out for each other. And that, again, kind of like the part A answer, really sets me off in a good way. It brings meaning to maybe a crappy day at work, or maybe a bad run-in with that 0.5% of my population that's a bit of a turd. I then can bounce back and really work with another side of that population that loves coming to their work every day and to their job that they do, and trying to actually still make a difference, and help the community out, let alone my personal life. I love my friends and family that have that same type of expectations for themselves.
Isn't it just so cool when you run into those people that just light the world on fire? Like, I can't even describe how exciting that is. Like, they just bring so much joy and love and passion, compassion, empathy, like all of it. Such a good package.
I feel like I agree. I feel like there's a lot of people that I work with that I don't hold a candle to. Like, there's just so many good human beings in this job and around me that, I try every day to just even have 10% of what they bring to the table. It's really special to have some of those people in this line of work to work with.
A freaking men. All right. Third question. We started easy, a little bit harder. The last one is, how are you changing the world?
One firefighter at a time. Honestly, I've always loved, and I swear I'm not being a brown noser here, but I've always loved the way you've reiterated and, attacked the concept of meeting people at their level. And I don't know when that was. The first time that we spoke might have been 2017 or 18, something like that. But it really resonated with me because I've always kind of practiced that, but I've never actually presented that or used that verbiage before to my people. Like, hey, it's not I'm going to meet you at your level. It's, hey, tell me about you. What's going on with you? What are your injuries? What's the passion that you have? What motivates you? And then you get to build, whether it's strength conditioning programs or just rapport and, personable skills with that individual. You have a better groundwork for it. And I feel like it's truly amazing in 2024. There's still so many people, so many agencies that understand those concepts, but don't apply them or haven't found the next phase to that first concept. And so it's really cool that we're trying to make those changes here. And it's not just all strength and conditioning or all just, wellness and fitness. It's a lot of other just conversations. Like, go to the station, meet them at their level, whether it's the lieutenant or captain you're talking to, or whether it's that probie, and you're talking to all of them almost the same way. But then you get to individualize that to a certain degree, or, hey, I'm going to talk to that master tech real quick who's in charge of that probie and basically the upbringing of that technician soon to be. And I'm just saying, hey, try this. Maybe we can approach this leadership skill set in a way that I know works for me. And I'm not talking about the fire side because that's their realm, but it's really cool to try to make an impact and an influence. And it doesn't always work. We learn from each other, like I've talked about, and we all know. But I feel like the way to set the world on fire in that regard is to try to make the change, to try to light that fire. And if you're not trying, you're not striking the match or, clicking that freaking lighter, what are you doing, right? We failed more times than we've been successful in almost everything we've done here. But the things that we're successful with have been triumphant because of all the failures we have had. It's fed and laid the groundwork into all the successes we are currently having and building for the future.
So good. And regarding that, meeting people where they are, I think that Chief Bob Baker said it the best that I've ever heard. It was on a recent episode. And he said, I am so greatly humbled by what I ask these men and women to do on a daily basis that they just think is routine.
Right.
Like, the things that firefighters just think are part of their daily routine, when you really think about it, that's some incredible stuff.
Yeah,
And we really have to take good care of these people, meet them where they are.
I agree. I love, I like the way that was put. Because it is like we talked about in the previous question. There's just so many good people that want to do right by the department, the agency, but also the community. And sometimes they just don't know what they don't know. And so we got to help to educate them. And then they can apply it to their performance and at their job. And that's the cool part, but also the challenging part in a lot of ways for us as civilian coaches and fitness experts is you're going to walk around with a bullseye on your back for a little bit, because what do you know about my job? What do you know about what I go through with sleep deprivation and stress inoculation issues and all this stuff? And it's like, you're right. Indirectly, I know a lot. Directly, you're right. I'm not I've done ride-alongs. I've spent time in the firehouses and at the kitchen tables, but I'm not you. You're right. But trust me, and here's why.
I love it. And Chief Brian Edmonston was on last week. And so he gave me kind of the lowdown on how the program started and how it evolved. And if I was listening with my good listening ears, you were the second strength and conditioning coach, correct? There was someone else that started and then you came on, you said 7 years ago?
Yes, it was Carl Shepard, who now works with Space Force. So he's a well-known name in the industry, just not as much on the fire side now that he's gone back to the military side. But yes.
Funny you say that because I think that we are LinkedIn friends and I had no idea. That's incredible.
He's big shoes to fill. That was my still my goal in a lot of ways.
Yes. Get those feet growing, Jake. So tell me a little bit about how were you just looking for a job and you came across this, or how did that all happen?
My story is a really interesting one. So it was circa 2015. My wife and I, she was my girlfriend at the time. We started getting serious in our dating, escapades, and we decided we were going to move in together, and that I was going to leave strength and conditioning in the college realm, which I had done for just shy of 9 years. And I loved my athletes. I loved strength and conditioning, but I just got kind of smoked from working 60 to 80 hours in season with football and dealing with the egos and politics of sports. And long story short, I started putting out a lot of feelers and applications to law enforcement and fire jobs. Pretty much anything I could get a hold of within the DMV area in Maryland and whatnot. And of course, it took a while because, again, non-military, with no EMS or EMT training, no law enforcement training. So wherever I could, I would jump in, try to do my physical aptitude stuff, my written, my polys, whatever. I think I had at 1.7 applications out. And I went through all the processes of all of them. The only one I got accepted to pretty immediately was Prince William County. And I pretty much accepted it right away, as soon as they offered it to me. But in the process of that, I was also doing my physical for Fairfax County Fire and Rescue. And I was on a treadmill, and Dr. Stewart, our occupational health center primary physician and also kind of the president of the contract for Fairfax County, he was running my stress test, and he was like, hey, so what's your background? What did you do before this? And I told him, and I'm literally mid-stride running, all hooked up, and he's just pushing up on, the level. And I'm just like, okay, doc, like, I think you're forgetting that you're pushing the button as I'm talking to you. And I think we got to like level 14 or 15, and I'm hauling ass. And I'm like, I'm a strength and conditioning coach, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, really? Oh, that's fascinating. I'm like, come on, He's like, oh, yeah, okay. And he stopped it, and he's like, actually, we have a position open. Carl Shepard had left, and we have been looking ever since. And so sure enough, I think it was a week later, maybe, he contacted me to go through an official interview process for it. And he was like, hey, listen, I know you want to be a firefighter, but while you're waiting, which could take a year to 2 years to get hired, if you're interested, we'd love to interview for this position, potentially offer you if all goes well. So I was like, sure, why not? I didn't want to leave coaching. Like I said, it was more of the sports realm that just burned me out a little bit. And so I sat down, I got to see this facility that we had at the time, and I was blown away. I'm from this area, and I had no idea that Fairfax County had a strength and conditioning program for public safety. And so they offered me, and at the time I was still kind of in the mindset of, well, yeah, I'll just do this for a few months because I want to be a firefighter. And then I kind of fell in love with it. And I'll never forget my first 3 firefighters that I worked with. One was coming back from a pretty significant pregnancy experience. One had just fallen through 2 stories in a fire, landed on his SCBA, like fractured one of his vertebrae, separated his left shoulder, tore his labrum in his right shoulder, like concussion, just all jacked up. And the third one, I think it was a combination of a wrist, elbow, and a shoulder. But it was those three individuals that actually hooked me because I got to introduce them to pretty much what Carl had been helping to develop program wise, but also then take it to the next level of sports science. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to train everything that's non-injured. We're going to take it step by step, and then we're going to build on it. And then that stemmed into morning group workouts for my female firefighters only to work on grip strength, upper body strength as they got ready for their work performance evaluations. And I fell in love with it. And then I slowly got to find out that I could shave my face, get all my bunker gear, had my own set, get an SCBA on, go through to burns, go to oars, go to training, do ride-alongs. And I was super hooked at that point. And then fast forward, 2019, right as like COVID started, I got to meet the new police chief that we had just had. He had just had his press conference. He's now been with us for a little over a year and a half, 2 years now, Chief Davis. And we now have brought PD into the fold with everything we're doing health and wellness wise. And so now I get to go shoot guns at the range with them, go through some tactics with them. I get to still shave my face and do, competencies and stuff with my fire brethren and sisters. And it's like the best hybrid job in the world. I get to train people, shoot guns, and put out fires. Like I'm blessed,
You're like a little kid, Jake. You're so excited. I love this. You know what? Most of my listeners, that's probably a lie. Actually, I don't know who most of my listeners are, but I think they're firefighters, fire administration, and strength and conditioning professionals, some of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my firefighters probably don't have a good appreciation about how much collegiate and professional sports as a strength and conditioning coach can just, you mentioned it, 60 to 80 hours a week, 60 to 80 hour weeks, but tell us about that grind. Like, break it down for us. I want them to understand.
Yeah, sure. So my last stint I was associate director of strength and conditioning at James Madison University. I oversaw primarily football. I also had 4 other teams under me with women's lacrosse, women's field hockey, men's and women's golf, and then swimming and diving, which is just women's. I also had an assistant underneath me and 3 interns or GAs, graduate assistants. So we were pretty much tasked with managing all those teams and then supplementing the director with football. And in football season, obviously football is king. Football took priority over all the other sports, which it pissed me off at times. And I played football. I grew up around it. I love football. But I had a lot of other athletes I needed to train, and especially good teams. Like my women's lacrosse team were a bunch of badasses. I would tell them to run through a brick wall, and they'd run through a brick wall and then some. They were just awesome athletes to work with. And so I bring that up in the sense that it kind of laid the groundwork of how I slowly got burned out working with football, because you deal with not just workouts, which would run 4 to 6 times every day in various degrees. You'd have some injury related groups, you'd have rookies, freshmen, you'd have redshirt groups, and then you'd have starters and non-starters, or travel team, non-travel. And then you had to also balance out schedules. Within those class schedules, it was, okay, so-and-so is going to be able to come in at 8 a.m. and then maybe 20 other guys can. The rest are going to come out at 9, maybe 5:30 in the morning. Those that have conflicts come in at 3 p.m. before film, and then we go right out to practice. And then at practice, our job as strength coaches were to run Muscle Beach. And I air quote that because really it was our injured population. Again, it could have been concussions, ACLs, I stubbed my toe in the shower. Our job was to make their life a living hell, but in a very successful and efficient way without getting them further injured, but to make sure that they weren't just coasting and babying it. The whole mission was to get them back to practice, right? So basically, it was just grinding anywhere from 6 to 12 guys every practice. At the same time, my first year, I was doing my master's program. So I would finish practice at 7 p.m.-ish, make sure we cleaned up the weight room, got it ready for the next workout the next day, and then I went to class. I did that twice a week. So my class would be done at like 9 p.m. I'd come home. I'd get some, freezer, bagged dinner that I was just trying to pour into a pan, cook up real quick, do some homework, crush it, and then go to bed because I rinse and repeat, Come game day on Saturdays and in season especially, we also had to host, and I was in charge of recruits and their parents. So we'd warm the guys up and all that. But before we warmed up before the game, the parents and recruits would have to come through the weight room. And we'd showcase our beautiful weight room, $1 million facility. And hey, here's how we program in season and out of season. Here's what we focus on with explosiveness and power development, injury prevention. And then when injuries happen, here's what we do, and just basically take Q&A for almost an hour and a half from parents who were potentially going to let their kids take a scholarship to us, And then, oh, by the way, I'm in a polo, khakis, and shoes getting ready to go out on the field for the game. And then I'm the get back coach, making sure the head coach isn't on the field getting a penalty, and I'm pulling him back with his shirt. And so it was fun. It's fun when you're young. It's fun when you're, 22 to 28 years of age, maybe, because you don't have a whole lot of other responsibilities. And it's, you're pushing and grinding hard to get that big job at, I don't know, Alabama or Clemson or one of those big top premier schools, and have it made where you have 10 assistants. You don't have to do any of that other than maybe talk to recruits' parents. So it got to the point, and we had a staff turnover. So when I was there, one of my mentors had hired me there, and he was the director. Him and the entire staff, other than me, the athletic trainer, and the equipment manager, got fired. And pretty much the only reason why I didn't get fired is because I had played football. So it was kind of this biased, like, oh, you're one of us. You're a brethren of the gridiron. Like, okay, we'll keep you. But like my butt was like constantly having to prove why I was a good coach throughout that whole next year of getting that new staff and them trying to run kids off in an efficient way to see who really wanted to be on the team, who didn't want to be on the team. And it's crazy because yes, that actually happens, but they probably won't say it in that way. It's more or less like, oh, we just want to see who wants to be the starter for that position, or, who's going to grind it hard in the weight room. It's like, nah, they just want to see who's going to fit their mold and their philosophy, It'd be like equivalent to a captain at a firehouse, or maybe even a battalion chief, depending upon what level you want to go with. But they take over a battalion or a house, and they say, hey, you know what? We're going to see who's who here. And if I don't like you, you're gone. And they just start running people out of the house, and they bring in their own people, Like that's crazy to think about in a lot of ways, but that's football, Maybe not so much now, but 2015, the last time I was in it, that's what was going on. So, yeah.
So my young, words are hard. My young strength and conditioning coaches, I want you to hear something. Jake said he was showing the parents, the programming for developing strength and power and whatever, agility. Well, guess what? That's what Jake's doing for his firefighters now in hours that are more reasonable and conducive to his family life. And he's taking care of people who take care of people.
Yep.
It doesn't get any better than that.
So what's the best way to put that? Yeah.
He's taking care of people.
And I get to take care of myself. That's one of the best part, right? My sleep's, it's still kind of trash in a sense because I get anxious about the next day's workouts and I take care of my people, but it is so much better than what it was. My home life is better. I get to see my family. Whereas, you're a sports coach. It's a tough grind. Sometimes you're seeing maybe an hour when you get home, and that's about it.
Oof. So, that's all I have to say. Oof.
Yeah.
So I want to go in a direction of what does it look like to work with your program as let's start at a rookie. So what kind of give me a snapshot. I'm a rookie coming into Fairfax County. What is my interface with you? What is, the academy? What does all that look like? The mic is yours. I want to hear it all.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool because we're starting to do a little bit more of a revitalization and a rebuild in a lot of ways. So initially, over the last few years, we've had like a VPOP program, which is just a voluntary program. Anybody that's a new hire that's been offered and accepts can come, and between Megan Lautz and myself going over nutrition and then fitness, getting ready for the academy. We give that presentation, and then I take them through just kind of a real brief body weight circuit of kind of like what to expect. Here's the bare minimum. And then I give them a packet of what the current recruit classes are doing with their strength conditioning program, foam rolling, active dynamic exercises with descriptions. And then the very worst, if you don't have access to a gym or gym equipment to some degree, circuits from moderate to high intensity laid out for about 4 to 6 weeks. We're hoping to take that to the next level where we're going to have a lot more buy-in and a lot more lead up to an academy where we have people constantly coming in X amount of times a week, weeks in a month. And that way we get a little bit more hands-on early on and get them better prepared for the academy. But for now, that's kind of where we're at, especially with some new great leadership. We're going to see what that direction takes us in. And then once they get to the academy, we kind of do that presentation again with a little bit more detail and a little bit more in-depth experience of what to expect. Here's what has worked in the past with some, awareness of shoes. I always relate our bodies and shoes to cars. So we're trying to work on treads on a tire. What do you do when your tread's low? You change your tires. Look at your shoes. Are your shoes old and worn out? Those can make a big difference. So just go to an outlet center, buy shoes for like 40, $50. They don't have to be $150. Just make sure you're keeping on top of that stuff. And then same with the warm-up concept, teaching people why soft tissue work is important, why mobility, flexibility, and just awareness of their bodies are important. And again, translate it and correlate it back to cars. We work on idling our engine in the warm-up. You turn the key, or in this day and age, you hit an app or your fob and it starts the car for you. That's the initial foam rolling, maybe you're up and moving phase. And then we take it to the next level. You're driving through the neighborhood, 15 to 25 miles an hour. You're not on the highway yet. So now we're going to ramp it up a little bit more in our dynamic warm-up, maybe some crossover symmetry, maybe it's plyometrics and agilities. And then when we're ready for the workout, AKA merging onto the highway, pick it up, we should be primed and ready to roll. And so it kind of gives them a little bit more of a correlation to, oh, okay, this isn't a foreign language, even if I've never done it before. And we give them feedback, based off, again, current and prior classes that have come through. We also put them through a fitness assessment, which includes pull-ups, curl-ups, push-ups, and a 3-minute step test. And again, it's a bare bones but very efficient way of just getting a snapshot of where our people are, right? And we do that yearly, actually, for our incumbents. So people that are currently in the field, they do that for us as well every year at their physical. And I can get into more specifics on that if you want, but it's more or less just, again, tracking and trending. We're the safety net. This is a mandatory but non-punitive thing. They are not the end-all be-all exercises by any means, but when we first started, it was a way to kind of just, hey, what's going on with you? I don't see the majority of you for months on end at times with 1,500 firefighters and 39 firehouses, let alone 2 recruit classes going through. It's very hard for our staff to get hands-on or at least communication with everybody. So this is a good way to kind of track and trend our recruits too. So we went one in the beginning of recruit class, one in the middle, and then one at the end. But now we're just going to do one in the beginning and one at the end. And that'll help to shape our programming for each individual class size, meet them at their level, figure out where they're at based off their assessments, and then program accordingly.
Love it. And then do you yourself lead PT each morning, or is it pure fitness trainers? How does that work?
It's both. So yeah, usually it's going to be pure fitness trainers because I've kind of created a little bit of a monster, which is a good thing and a positive thing. But I try to get up there as much as I can. I'm present. I'm aware of what's going on with them. We talk to basic training, our field training, our lieutenants, our captains. We make sure we have a good feel of what's going on with their curriculum as well as how we're supplementing them. But our pure fitness trainers are also in a development phase. So what we've been doing to build out our program, which collectively between our fire side, we have, I believe, 34 now. And then police have a little over 30 as well. So we have about 60 pure fitness trainers that Coach Brandon Holder on the PD side and myself managed collectively. And we're going to start to share those resources. But we're trying to train them up, right? We want to make sure that they're getting some experience interacting, being present with people, being helpful, teaching, all those things. So we kind of oversee everything and let our pure fitness trainers, after we've taught them and brought them up to snuff in a sense, we let them run with it. We program everything. So Brandon and myself, and especially me with the fire academy and him with the police academy, we program our, 8 weeks before suppression programming, building, and then maintenance phase, and then getting ready for that last assessment. If there's anything in between, between firefighter 1, firefighter 2, or EMT stuff, or what have you, we have the flexibility to make those adjustments. It's kind of the only time we say it jokingly, because one of our biggest mottos is there is no off season, right? And it's on our sweatshirts. But that is the one time that we can actually correlate kind of an in-season, preseason, or out-of-season kind of a cycle or periodization is when we were dealing with recruits, because just the curriculum itself and the phases that they go through before they graduate, it kind of correlates and relates a little bit better. But so I don't, and also, by the way, here at our facility, which is where I'm at right now, our WellFit Performance facility, we have an 0600 to basically 1000 workout groups. So we have 4 groups every day coming in here, and one of those groups is a light duty group. And so my emphasis and need right now is to be here with the light duty groups, because there's a little bit more required eyes on, hands on, making sure we're tailoring programs specific to the non-injured body parts and not tapping into the injured body parts, and having the conversations of how you feeling today, what's going on, how was rehab yesterday, what's your timeline like, do we need to get you in gear soon? So it's not that the recruits aren't my point of emphasis. They are one of those aspects. But right now with this new, push of our SOP to get every single light duty people out here to see us that has been cleared to see us, we're trying to make sure we have that up and running the proper way, and then I can bounce back and forth as needed.
Jake, I try very hard on this podcast to make it about the listener, but sometimes I want to ask a question just for me, and this is just for me.
Okay.
What do you use for program delivery? Do you use the good old Excel spreadsheet? Do you use Bridge, Team Builder, Train Heroic? What do you use?
So we've dabbled in both. We've used Train Heroic in the past. I know PD has dabbled with Bridge. I'm just an old school Excel guy, and I blast out as much as I can to people who want it, who want to see it. We also have some presence online with our social media pages. That could be a little bit of a red tape area because we are a county entity, and so getting clarification and allowance to do certain things sometimes takes time. But for the most part, I just blast programs out. The ones that we send to the field for our operational people, we actually have kind of a YouTube channel and an intranet page on our fire.net that they can click on. And every program design that we have for the week, for the day, what have you, every exercise is clickable, and it'll take you right to an exercise description link, and it'll show the exercise visually, and then it'll give you a description. And then again, it has, all of Megan's stuff on there with nutrition that has been instrumental. I don't have to tell you that. I don't even think she can breathe with how busy she's been. But it's been really cool to have all that information for our people on both the red and the blue side, and to be able to access that, via their own intranets. That's been kind of the most efficient, again, especially with over 1,500 firefighters, over 3,000 personnel, period. It's hard, especially when people don't have social media. The things we learned about with Bridge and Train Heroic, as great as those apps have been, and I like them personally, it's hard to hold people accountable that are working 24-hour shifts, that are, off 4 days at a time, that aren't regularly checking in. And then I also have to find time to get our team to check their stuff. And it's a big process that I wish if we had a bigger staff, we would 100% be trying to manage that a little bit more efficiently and proactively. But as for right now, it's just seemed to work with our Excel stuff and emails and just hands-on, going to visit them coming out to our facility.
Perfect. Thank you for entertaining my question. So now I want to know what I am near retirement, Jake. I am a breath away from retirement.
Good for you.
I know, 7 shifts I have left to work, but what does it look like for someone who they're out of the academy? So whatever, their probation, their mid-career, their end of career. What does it look like interfacing with your staff at that level? Like, what are the different touch points that I could take advantage of?
I think that also falls into that conversation of trying to make a little bit more of an impact with our culture. And I say that respectfully to our older generation of firefighter, because we have a lot of badasses like yourself that are into fitness and are into how they're eating and how they're sleeping. And so it kind of depends, right? It depends on the conversation of how much time do you have left? Are you in the drop? Are you a couple shifts away? Also, what are your goals once you're done and you're out in the real world, per se, on your own, living your best life? It doesn't really change our philosophy, though. Like our philosophy and our guidance and the way we formulate those conversations still all revolve around making a better version of you, and or continuing that bettering of yourself. So, you're obviously going to get a chance to maybe work on your sleep, work on your diet, live somewhere where it's tropical and warm. And if not, you can still make it work. But it's more or less, again, meeting them at their level. What's going on with you? How have your aches and pains been feeling? All your wears and tears over the last 25, 30 years, 40 years, what have you? And what can we work with? Here's some yoga concepts. Here's some mobility, flexibility. Continue your strength development. And just like our light duty groups, it's the same workout basis each day for them. But again, we tailor it towards, okay, your knee's killing you today, or it has been for a little while. Maybe we add a little bit more, waking up of the hamstring and the glutes. And then we also work them a little bit more. And we just bring awareness to whatever it is that they're specifically feeling. That's not necessarily directly job performance, but obviously it can pertain to that. It's more or less you do you tell us how to help you. And then we'll carry you into retirement with a healthy, mindful, awareness of what's going on with your body, so you can continue on your own. And then the fine line, gray area is also trying to find the right way and the ability to work with our retirees because once they're out of the system, they're technically out of the system, but we might turn our eye to that. Hopefully nobody in Fairfax County is hearing this, but I share information with them still. I tell them to drop by, pop in. I'll take them through a quick movement, just showcase some stuff that maybe they forgot about or haven't seen before, and then send them on their way with a packet, and still to check in because, once a brother and a sister, always a brother and a sister. So we try to help all of our people to the best of our ability, whatever their needs are. It's not all just, job performance.
Yes, job performance is important, but to me, it's the least important thing. Like, it's people. It's people. We got to take care of people,
100%.
And you're taking care of people. I love it. So, let me ask you this, Jake. When you have a class of recruits coming in, you can tell just like I can. You've got the recruits that obviously have played sports, have good movement proficiency. They just look like well-moving humans, for lack of other terms. And then you have those recruits, like they skip with the right arm and the right leg going at the same time, or they shuffle with their feet slapping together. You ask them to do a push-up position plank and their back is in a sway back and they don't move well.
Right.
So when I see those people, I think, uh-oh, because they're not moving well now, they're not going to move well when they're doing job tasks, and they're going to have a greater chance for injury. And that's my opinion, but I think it's pretty true.
I agree.
So, Jake, tell me, how do you approach those people? Like, you have a different situation than I do. You got hands on these people for the length of an academy. But let's just say you have your hands on these people for a little while, 5-10 days. How do you approach that?
Yeah, actually, I think I would err on the side of us not being able to see them that much and that often, even within, the confines of our development of our program. It's as great of an interaction that we have. We are still very much siloed at times because our academy is 15 minutes away from our facility currently. So again, I have to rely on me contacting and talking to those lieutenants and, other technicians as to, hey, how's the class today? How are they doing? And I get their schedules. I know exactly when they're throwing ladders, humping hose, doing whatever. But it still comes down to that conversation, the communication between the leadership and the management of those recruits. And it's hard. It's very hard, especially with pure fitness trainers involved, where I got a lot of squared away, TSAC certified, a lot of OG coaches that are awesome, but are also dealing with their own stuff, from physical to mental, coming off shift, going straight to a recruit workout to lead it. It can be a lot to manage at times. And I have to rely on the conversations and the communications as to how I formulate that next week's program. So every Friday, I blast a text, an email, a call to whoever over at the academy. Hey, how was the class this week? How did throwing ladders go? How did, all the classroom stuff go? Do we need to do some mobility, functional, lightweight stuff? And then I'll tailor the programming for that. And again, I kind of have to go on, word of mouth and trust that whatever they're telling me is factual. And then when I get a chance, I make sure I stay on top of my coaches too. Hey, how'd you see it today? What did you see? How'd you feel about it? Did X, Y, and Z recruit come to you? Because I know their shoulders and their backs have been bothering them via their lieutenants. Did you do what I told you to do, or did you do based off what you know to help modify and regress them a little bit on a deadlift or, whatever maybe the primary movement was for that day? And it's a big team mentality concept, and it really boils down to how well are we educating our coaches, and then again because we are shifting, the ball is rolling, but how progressively and positively are we actually now pushing that ball to help change that culture and awareness of fitness? It's not just WODs, it's not just pick heavy crap up and put it down. All that stuff is cool at times, but it's that conversation of again meeting them at their level that day. Might be Monday and they just had the weekend off. That doesn't mean that they had a great, successful weekend of not doing a whole lot, or how active was the recovery or not at all. And figuring out, hey, don't have an ego about this basic training. And I'm not saying they do, but, just because we went light with them that morning and did nothing but soft tissue and a light dynamic warm up for almost an hour doesn't mean you need to crush them later on with whatever it is the curriculum is for that day. So a lot of it, again, boils down to a lot of trust and give and take and communication and just building off that.
Well, and I think too, it sucks, but it is so hard to teach athleticism. Either you kind of have it or you kind of don't, and you
Right.
can get better. But yeah, it's tough.
Well, it's funny too, because some of the best athletes that I've had come through are some of the worst ones to work with. Because it's like they
Mm.
think they know more at times, and not all of them, but a good amount. Or I'm super strong. I've deadlifted for years, and then I can see that they don't keep a neutral spine, or that their knees are caving in the dead. And I'm like, hold on. You remember you were talking about some medial knee pain? Like, this is why. Like, let's throw some bands around your knees and do some lateral monster walks before we even grab that bar. So sometimes it's actually even more challenging to work with the athletic types. It's easier for them to absorb it, pick up, and then progress quicker. But at least somebody that has doesn't have anything on the canvas per se. It's kind of simpler to formulate them towards our philosophy than those that have already worked with strength coaches or what have you, sports. So it's give and take. It definitely is. And we try to keep it as simplistic as possible with our programming. We don't do a whole lot of barbell work at all. It's mostly trap bars when we deadlift. Actually, it is nothing but trap bars and kettlebells when we deadlift. The only time we use barbells is like for landmines. We'll do some light overhead pressing movements. And that's pretty much it. All of our bench presses are dumbbells. Our rows are dumbbells. We do pull-ups and stuff like that. And we keep it simple but super efficient, and then build on those.
Keep it simple and stupid.
Yeah, I
like
love
that.
KISS. That's a great acronym. Always will be. Keep it simple, stupid. That's really me yelling at myself, right? Keep it simple, stupid, you idiot. Yeah.
Yeah, make it simple. And it's interesting. A lot of times firefighters, they look at a program and they're like, this is boring. But you know what? Boring works.
Oh, yeah.
Push, pull, hinge, squat, carry heavy stuff. Do
And
some
then
like
the big key too is the
mobility.
transverse plane stuff, right? Because that's the other fun part is like having some of these athletes or these quote unquote meatheads, and all they do is frontal and sagittal stuff. I'm like, cool. I'm gonna have you do a weighted apple picker. Let's see how well you do. Oh, you're dancing all over the place. You can't keep yourself stacked, huh? Or throw a medicine ball, rotationally, and see how you. Oh, wow. Yeah, we got to work on that. So yeah.
Yeah, because we do a lot of work in that plane.
100%. And that's just unloaded, right? Just wait till you get loaded up with all that gear and then try to do some of that.
The gear is the worst. Okay, Jake, I have one more question for you. Then we'll get to like the really important stuff, which is dogs. Okay. First question. I always ask this. I ask this on every podcast. I shouldn't say every, most podcasts. The pushback I get from the listeners is, yes, but that's Fairfax County. And you just told me they have 1,500 line and whatever, 3,000 total personnel. Like, of course they have a comprehensive program because they're big. And aren't you the richest county in the United States too also?
I don't know. Maybe Loudoun County or us. County? It might be one remember. Of us. I know we're probably top 3 between them and us. Yeah.
Yeah. So the pushback is always, yes, but they have money. And I say, yes, they sure do, but they had to start somewhere. So what's your advice to a little department near Chicago, Illinois, who has currently 87 personnel, and they're like, we can't be Fairfax. What do you have to say to them?
This was probably the best experience and aspect on my resume was when I left Duke University, which I did primarily football with, got my first certifications with coming out of college. I went to American University in Washington, D.C. And it's a small Division I program. And it was a private school, so it had some money. But we had 9 teams. I had 1 strength coach with me. We worked out of a closet, literally probably the same size as the one you're in right now, Annette.
I'm between in the closet,
2 of
Jake.
us. Yeah. And my assistant was 3 times bigger than me, just a big, strong dude. So imagine the 2 of us, sharing a room, drinking coffee and eating lunch and stuff in there, let alone going out and coaching our teams. But our budget was very small. And our weight room was super small. We had 3 racks in the whole weight room and maybe a set of dumbbells that went up to 120. And it was the best thing I ever did because I learned so much about, what to do, how to formulate presentations and ask for things based off of very little, that they were going to give me. And it's no different. Like, I think it goes without saying, Fairfax County is amazing. We are truly blessed for sure. We also have our own issues. Like we're their aircraft carrier. It takes us a while to turn left, turn right, to make decisions. And it's not that it's because we're fighting against certain things or we're not trying to be progressive. You just have so many different personalities, so many different levels of the organizational chart you have to go through to, again, 1,500 people that you also have to work through and also work with the local. So there's a lot of various degrees and layers that you have to work with. And I think the simplest thing to tell anybody, whether it's a big department, a small department, once again, is establishing relationships, building rapport and building trust, showcasing little things here and there. Find the small victories, go to a station, sit down, eat breakfast, morning lineup or dinner with them, or just drink coffee with them and just talk. Like, what's going on? What hurts you the most? And I mean physically, like your knees today or backs tomorrow, or, shoulders to 3 primaries. Okay, cool. What have you done for it? Have you had any significant, and just build the trust. Let me show you something. Come to the bay real quick, or if they have a weight room, I'm going to show you a couple quick movements, and then just start to build that out, and then take that to the next level of a battalion chief or deputy chief or whatever your rank structure is, and showcase like, hey, just so you know, we've had a lot of significant, findings in the field of bad backs, bad knees, but it's not necessarily that they're injured. It's more or less that they're not activating things properly, or they're just going to calls super cold, throwing on gear right away, which again, sometimes you're not going to be able, prevent that. You got to wake up in the middle of the night and do your thing. But if you can just do little things when your morning lineup routine, little things before, or when you get in the rig, like, have a ball. Like I have a buddy that's, got a bad bicep, and even with bunker gear on, he's sitting there squeezing the ball, doing some light isometric holds, eccentric work just to get that arm fired up before he goes and answers that call. And just trying to find what works and what doesn't work. And then everything else builds itself out. Again, I'm 7 years in this role. Carl Shepard was, I think, 3 years before me, maybe a little bit more, 4 or 5. But so collectively, you're looking at close to, 15, 20 years that we're still trying to work on some of the things that we're having struggles with. And we're just now getting these things built out. We got Megan hired a couple of years ago, and it's one of the best things we were able to do. It takes time, and you have to be patient, but it doesn't mean you have to sit there and just take it. You can get out there, be proactive, get to the stations, do the ride-alongs for those that are civilian coaches, or, if you're the head of your health and wellness program and you're, in the fire service, again, meet your guys and your girls where they're at. Do some body weight movements, during your shift day. On your off days, send out, blast an email to your crews or to the rest of the department, like, hey, here's what we did, or, go to the Wadwell links or our link or what have you, and just share some of the workouts they can do that are super simple. And it doesn't take much. It truly doesn't. I think we just have added bonuses to the equipment and the facilities that we have, but it's all about the personalities we have around us that's really helped build what we have.
Well, and I'm going to summarize what Jake said, but I'm going to mute him so he can't disagree with me, even though I don't think he will.
I respect that.
But here's what it comes down to. Even if you don't have a lot of money, even if you're working out of a closet with 2 sets of dumbbells and a sandbag, I think that you are going to have your most success and your most bang for your buck with a professional, with a qualified and competent outside professional. Can you do it with people on duty? Yes, but you're asking firefighters to be able to do the job of Jake, John. It's 2 people. You're asking firefighters to be able to do the job of a professional strength and conditioning person. So it is worth spending the money on an outside professional. Drop the mic. Do you agree, Jake?
I 100% agree.
It is. Even if you're a tiny department, even if you have 50 people, share the resource with another department. Okay. Well, before we talk about dogs, was there anything that we should have hit on that I missed, Jake, or did I do pretty good?
No, I think you did amazing. I think just that last little sentence, if I can add on to that to kind of prove my point, that is how we got PD involved with our program. Again, build that conversation out. But in my personal goal with that was to get, well, I'll back up. I was working with the SWAT team already. So I already had a tactical team kind of coming in our facility with permission of some of our fire chiefs to train and just kind of to help to showcase, build the rapport and the personalities and the relationships, but, to showcase how little effort it takes for PD to get involved with something like this and to be able to replicate and maybe mirror a health and wellness program. And then our chiefs got together after we had a conversation, the police chief and I, and then our fire chief, and then they got together and said, hey, we now could potentially have 2 budgets, 2 agencies, multiple, peer fitness trainers, behavioral health clinicians. Like, we can now join forces, and at the time, I think it's been developed a little bit further now, but it's still the One Fairfax mindset. #1 Fairfax was a big push of our county exec. And I used and abused that term. Like, okay, that's great for county employees. Why the hell are we not doing this for all of our public safety people? We go to the same headquarters. We do a lot of the same, training sometimes, the active shooters, the bloodborne pathogens. There's stuff that we share already. Why are we not doing this? Is a no-brainer. And then the chiefs were like, oh yeah, why don't we do that? And then boom, a year and a half, 2 years later, we're all now in the same facility. They've helped basically donate money to us, end of year money, to build out our rig. We have turf section now, more equipment. We have equipment now at our headquarters. So we have classes running here at our WellFit facility as well as our garage fit. And it was just a conversation that started that, And so I agree with you 100%. And you got to get somebody that's outside of the realm a little bit, that has that strength conditioning knowledge, bring them into the fold and build off that. And the rest should be, kind of not easy peasy, but simple in a lot of ways.
And I just learned something. Do not use a tagline around Jake, because he will take it, he will weaponize it, and he will use it against you. Okay, Jake, let's talk about the dog.
Which one?
Oh, that's right. You have two.
I got two now. I do.
You have the shepherd and
a red lab. Yeah, she's awesome. She's the snuggliest, cuddliest dog I've ever met in my life. And she loves to hunt ducks. So yeah, and deer too, but she's not very successful with deer. But yes, she'll retrieve ducks and, birds and whatnot. So she's a hunting dog, but she is the sweetest thing. And my German Shepherd is crazy, talks all the damn time, opens up doors and runs out of the house. But she is awesome and loyal to a fault, just like me.
Just like Jake the puppy. Do you ever take them to work?
I have. I brought my lab once when she was a puppy, and I haven't been able to bring her back since, because my wife is, also obsessed with her and doesn't let her leave the house. But my Shepherds, I brought her a couple times as well. But Shepherds scare people, and as friendly as my dog is and has never met a stranger, she's intimidating. She's, a 95-pound German Shepherd. So,
oh my God, we would be best friends. Best dog friends.
I love them. I love dogs for sure.
I do too. Well, Jake, this has been amazing. This is, again, part 2 of the Fairfax County. I know I'm getting Anna on, and probably I'll have to get Megan again, just because you got to talk to the dietitian, right?
Oh, of course.
And perhaps one of your mental health people. So we have maybe 4 or 5 part series coming up. So Jake, cool. I appreciate your time, and I will put your contact information in the show notes. And I think we did a pretty good job. We can probably drop the mic.
Yes, I agree. And again, just my contact information, I'll talk and share and do whatever I can to help people. I try to be as transparent as possible with everybody about anything. So please hit me up.
Just make sure you have a Red Bull first, or you won't keep up with it.
We just finished a workout too, so I was already kind of amped up. But yeah. Yeah, you caught me last time too. I'm pretty sure you were like, I feel like I could go smash something like Hulk.
Oh my God. I was like, this guy's blowing my hair back. All right. Listeners, thank you for joining us. Make sure you share the podcast, and I would love it if you give us a review. And AZ and Jake John are officially out.
Thank you.